Well, I came here back in 1978 with a contract with Peabody teaching in the Peace Corps programs. And I fall in love with Nashville. I found that very quiet city and very nice city. The people are very nice and kind. And that's led me really to open this gallery here in Nashville.
Faly Diop, who was born in the African country of Senegal. Although he's been in Nashville for 10 years, Diop's African Gallery is only 2 years old, and it's now in its new location, Carmichael Place on West End Avenue, where visitors may learn more about the history and culture of African nations and see Diop's extensive collection of African art objects.
Here in the gallery, you have art from Nigeria, you have art from the Cameroon, you have art from Morocco, you have art from Egypt, you have art from from Mali, from Upper Volta, from Benin, from Guinea, you name it. We have art from all over Africa. And we do this to inform the people about art and about the work, the outstanding work that the African people, put out. And I may add to that, all the African art inspire many great artists like Picasso, Modigliani, Paul Cézanne, and many others. And this is to say that one of these outstanding work of Pablo Picasso called Les Demoiselles d'Avignon also is a marriage between the Bakota mask from Gabon and the Senegal mask from the Ivory Coast.
I would imagine that there's nothing else like this in Nashville and probably not in Tennessee.
Well, I haven't seen a competitor yet here in the South, but I feel that even though there will be a competitor, we are ready to compete because we don't bring nickels and dime things. All we want is the support of the Nashvillian, and I might say that in the North of United States, in New York, Washington, D.C., and other places, the people are very aware of African art, and they start collecting. And in fact, the creation of the Smithsonian Museum, put out lots of people out there, and then they all start to collect African art, because African art is very, very ancient art. And I say that this is something very fascinating for the people to come and see and look and try to learn to understand so they can put out that miscegenation that exists around the world.
Faly Diop will introduce an African custom to gallery visitors, the ceremonial tea. This an important ritual of the Senegalese culture.
This tea is a ceremonial tea. This type of tea is the Mauritanian, is not far from Senegal. Senegal represented lots of countries, and even the Mauritanian government was in Saint Louis of Senegal. And I think this involvement with Mauritania brought about their own culture to our own country. And since we were coexisting together, we took something from their culture, and they took something from our culture.
As part of the ceremony, guests drink not 1 glass of tea, but 3 glasses of tea, each one different.
The first one is a little bit bitter. The second one is a little bit sweet, and the third one is sweeter. Also, the second and the third will have a mint in it.
Oh, I see.
Yes, and you drink that with a dry meat or with a cake or whatever you like. And when you do that, it brings also people closer and closer together. Is a very interesting, and I hope you will be here so you can witness what I'm talking about.
Faly Diop extending an invitation to the public to come for a tour of Diop's African Art Gallery. The gallery is located in Carmichael Place, 2404 West End Avenue in Nashville. For Tennessee Kaleidoscope, this is Lynn Folk.
All these African art pieces you see has a name and has a meaning, a spiritual meaning, because before religion did exist, the African carved and used those carving has a spiritual meaning.
The art of carving has deep-rooted significance for Faly Diop and other collectors of African art. Faly is proprietor of Diop's African Art Gallery in Nashville, and today Tennessee Kaleidoscope focuses on some of the carved objects in the gallery, their meanings, and their usages.
They use it to pray. They use it to protect the house. They use it for the fertility. They use it for medicine. They use it for many other things, for funeral and for ceremonial things, for the king or for baptism or whatever. And there is some mask that is called circumcision mask. And all of these things has a meaning because the African didn't write. All their laws and their regulation were represented by carving.
Most of the carvings are wood carvings.
Yes, most of them are wood carving, and you have also some bronze, and then you have some elephant tusk, like you see here. This is an elephant tusk and is carved to show you that the African are versatile about what they're doing. And you have also these seats there, as chairs, they beaded.
Carved chairs and stools covered with beading. Examples of the meticulous craftsmanship of these African tribal workmen, many of them the king's personal carvers. These seats are first carved from wood, then covered with fabric and solid beading sewed on over the fabric.
They carve the wood first, they dress it with fabric, and then they start sewing one by one the beads. And it takes a long time work, as you can see.
That's a sort of a checkered pattern there. You mean each little square is sewed in?
Exactly. And you find that also in the statue. And those are Bamoun. The Bamoun are also from the Cameroon. And they have a king called Elijah Ibrahim Njoya. Elijah Ibrahim Njoya is the king of the Bamoun tribe. And he has also his carvers, his personal carvers, who does carving for him, and when he feel like giving a gift to a president or somebody, one of his visitors, he has his carvers who carve those gifts for him.
Of the carved wooden figures in the gallery, a great favorite of visitors is the antelope, a mythical being who taught man how to cultivate the soil and become a farmer.
The antelope Bambara is called Chiwara, and Chiwara means the farmer, because the Bambara tribe feel that it's the antelope who taught them how to farm.
In the African mythology, the graceful antelope has not only taught man cultivation of the soil, it has played an important role after the death of man, gracefully taking his soul to paradise.
This antelope is very graceful, said the Bambara, that when somebody died, the soul will go into the antelope, and the antelope will walk gracefully into paradise.
For visitors wishing to learn more about African art and culture, leather goods, articles of clothing, and textiles from the African countries are on display.
And we have also some cloth, like a kente cloth. We have some tie-dye. We have some clothes from Morocco. We have some jewelry, 18-karat gold, silver from Senegal, filigree. We have different things, as you can see.
Faly Diop, born in Senegal, has worked in New York and in Washington at the Museum of Natural History with the late Dr. Margaret Mead. When he came to the South, he was a professor at Peabody College, at Tennessee State University, and at Columbia Community College. 2 years ago, he and his wife Jeanette opened Diop's African Art Gallery, the only one of its kind in the South. It's located in Carmichael Place, 2404 West End Avenue in Nashville. For Tennessee Kaleidoscope, this is Lynn Folk.
I'm so happy to have had a part in the preservation of Jonesboro, and we feel that the older people must soon write their little books about Jonesboro, or so much of the older Jonesboro history will have vanished.
Dorothy Wood, a native of Jonesboro, the oldest town in Tennessee, where most of the people who live there have a story to tell about a building, a piece of land, or some historic event. This applies not only to old-timers, but to newcomers as well.
We're so proud of the new people that have come into Jonesboro because they are interested in the town. They appreciate the history.
For Tennessee Kaleidoscope, Dorothy Wood talked about the historic beginnings of an art object familiar to Tennesseans. And we discussed the early days of an annual event in Jonesboro, which draws thousands of visitors, the National Storytelling Festival.
I was one of the persons that helped decide to undertake storytelling. And at the first year of the storytelling, we had it down from a wagon around the courthouse, the storytellers. We also thought we should have some colorful activities going on, so we got someone with a big iron kettle to make apple butter there in front of the courthouse. The next year, if I remember correctly, the ghost tales were up here in our upper lot.
That's right next to the cemetery.
Yes, in our yard. And also, founder Jimmy Neal Smith asked various people if their back porches could be used for the various storytellers. And it would be maybe 25 people. And I was so happy to have on our back porch a cowboy from Colorado telling stories. And, of course, the television and all of this went down in history. So we have had many historic moments for storytelling, and particularly when various known people came.
The Storytelling Festival has become so widely known that back porches are no longer sufficient for accommodating the crowds. So the story performances take place now in several huge tents installed in the center of town. And up on a hill known as Rocky Hill, just above the town, visitors come to look at the home formerly owned by Dorothy Wood, a Victorian house built on the site of the origin of the Tennessee State Seal, ordered by John Sevier, Tennessee's first governor.
This is supposed to have been the site of the silversmith shop, William and Matthew Atkinson, who were silversmiths at the turn of the century, 1800. And John Sevier gave them the order to make the state seal. And Governor Roane was the first governor to use the state seal.
The design of the Great Seal of the state of Tennessee includes a plow, wheat, and cotton, representing agriculture, and a boat, representing commerce. Over the years, some alterations were made in the appearance of the boat.
That is what was changed in the 1830s and 40s, because the first boat looked just like a rowboat, and the second boat was more sophisticated.
Dorothy Wood of Jonesboro was some of her recollections of Tennessee's oldest town. For Tennessee Kaleidoscope, this is Lynn Folk.
I'm not an advocate of the idea of staying away from the piano when you write. I think that you have to use the piano as a kind of a checkpoint, an instrument to sort of try out what you've written. I think that's very good to have that relationship with the piano. Stravinsky certainly did it, you know. There are these people who say you can't write near the piano. Well, I don't know what that accomplishes.
Bill Pursell's relationship with the piano goes back to the time when he was 3 and 4 years old in California, playing piano by ear and also composing tunes. Several years later, in 1960, he came to Nashville, where he's appeared as a concert and a pop piano artist, and has been a producer, composer, and arranger. In addition to Nashville, he's recorded in every major musical center in the United States and in London. His musical training included study under such notable piano teachers as Alexander Sklurevsky at the Peabody Conservatory in Baltimore, and later a study at the Eastman School in Rochester. As a frequent performer, Bill Pursell understands that magical moment when the performing artist knows he has the rapt attention of the audience.
I can look back on the early days when I was studying with Sklurevsky, and I used to notice that when I would play, I would listen to the audience, and if there was not a sound out there, you knew you had the attention. And you can hear that. And you know, the silences between the notes when you're playing are really just as important as the notes themselves, as the sounds themselves, because the drama is the space between the notes.
Arranging and conducting for recording artists, writing musical scores for shows, composing and producing TV and radio commercials have kept Pursell busy on the national scene. And he is associate professor and composer in residence at Belmont College here in Nashville. For Tennessee Kaleidoscope, a recording of one of his pieces played in concert at Belmont. He explains that it's about cats.
Felis domesticus, it's domestic cats. The two movements that I've written, one is called Lost Kitten and the Dog. It was about a kitten that we had at one time. It's sort of a description of a little thing out in the backyard, getting lost in the shrubbery and chasing its tail. And finally a dog comes along and chases it up a tree, and it finally comes down. And it's a sort of a description of that.
Bill Pursell was named Tennessee Composer of the Year for 1985 by the Tennessee Music Teachers Association. For Tennessee Kaleidoscope, this is Lynn Folk.